Hello, everybody. It's Lenny Murphy here with our continuing series of showcasing women CEOs in honor of Women's History Month. And today I am joined by Ambika McGee. Ambika, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Uh, Glad to have you. So little history. Ambika reached out to me, what was it, a couple months ago, right,
hmm
on LinkedIn, and we just had a wonderful chat talking about the industry and uh, opportunities because you have the great luck of deciding to build a business during a pandemic, right?
Oh, yes. I'm so lucky, so fortunate, right? So,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. Rather than me telling your story, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about your background and what got us to this conversation, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so for me, I started out 15, 16 years ago on the client side of market research and had a great career, learned a lot, traveled the world, doing lottery and gaming market research. And just in the last 5 years felt like, okay, well, maybe I could be more impactful. Maybe I could actually have more work-life balance if I do my own thing.
Ha!
And
We should have
right.
talked way before that then.
Right, exactly, exactly.
Sorry.
You know who I blame? I blame my husband because he comes from a family of entrepreneurs, and he was the one that was like, "No, this should be the year that you do your own thing. We're not getting any younger, da 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 da." And so I'm like, "All right, fine." 2019, we filed all the paperwork to start this business so that it could kick off in January of 2020. Then the world collapses.
Right.
But it's not been all bad, right? I think that we all have that kind of feeling where there's some things with coronavirus that have just been horrible, terrible. People's careers have been obliterated in certain instances. But
Yeah.
for me, the whole purpose in starting the consultancy was really to bring more technology into the research that we do, which meant that, most of our projects were online anyway. And I remember the first project we did, we had great participation because people had nothing else, nothing else to do. They were happy to fill out our survey, right? And so it's been a challenging year. There's been a lot of just everything going on, but it's not been bad for business. And I think that for me, I never really saw a lot of women or even, African American women doing market research throughout my entire career. And I felt like, all right, well, maybe you could be the solution. You could fill in the gap that you never really saw for other young people, other women, other men. Just be the piece that really, you never really got to participate in or be a part of. So it's not been horrible, but I do work a lot of hours though. That part of it, I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah, yeah, the work-life balance. Yeah, I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years, and yes, the my average work week is a low-level work week is 60 hours a week.
Right.
And that's just the way that it is, and everybody's adapted. But so you brought up an interesting point, and I thought about this a lot. So especially in the last year, right? I mean, let's just be aware that the issues around diversity and inclusion certainly is kind of part and parcel of this explosion of consciousness that occurred in 2020, and that's wonderful and important. And a lot of folks trying to kind of understand, well, why is this industry so not diverse?
hmm
I mean, geographically, certainly it is, but let's say in the United States or in Europe, the it's not. And I don't think that's by. I think it's just kind of by accident. Now, I might have a warped perspective, and I own that,
hmm
but uh, I mean, it's unfortunate. I could think maybe maybe I know 10 people, 10 African
hmm
American people in the industry,
hmm
maybe 10, right off the top of my head. Now, that doesn't reflect my personal, yeah, I know lots of people in my personal life, but
hmm
sorry, it's kind of an awkward question because I'm trying to get to it.
hmm
it what, why are we not more diverse? Do you think there's anything systemic in the industry, or is there something that we're not communicating effectively to students, or but why are we not attracting more people like you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of reasons. I mean, so like for me, when I think about my pathway, the route that, I took to get to where I am today, it was completely by accident. I mean, I
Right.
never,
Like most people. Right. Me too.
I did
Yeah.
not plan on, doing what I'm doing right now. I mean, I always aspired to being an entrepreneur, but it wasn't like I didn't have anybody in my family that, was an entrepreneur. So it was more just an aspirational thing. Like, that's the goal, but I don't know how I'm going to get there. And my very first job ever in life was doing patient satisfaction surveys for this for this healthcare company. I just remember thinking this survey is stupid. I don't know who made this thing, but it's just way too long. But never thinking that that was a career. I mean, I had a little
Yeah.
bit of exposure to market research through that job, but it just wasn't, there was no connection there at all. I mean, my family is so I'm a first generation American. My family are all immigrants, and it was like, you need to be a doctor, you need to be an attorney, because those are the pathways that they saw as being successful.
Right. Right.
Nothing else was really a consideration. There was no one that I could speak to in my family that was like, all right, well, I'm an attorney or I'm a researcher or whatever, I'm going to help you, at least expose you to what I do. And I think that that's the big problem with a lot of, Black and brown people, is just
Mm.
you don't have an example. You don't have someone that you can turn to that looks like you, that's doing a wide variety of things. And so because you don't have that example, you just kind of succumb to just human existence. Like you're just kind of going along and you're just kind of like, taking whatever you can get, not necessarily aspiring to be an engineer or whatever it is. And so that's definitely a problem. And I do think that there are some systemic things in our industry that do prevent people who are, diverse from getting in. I mean, and I think that I've even fallen into that, where in my corporate role, I would only look at applicants that had, you know, a master's degree from this program or a degree from that, college or whatever,
Yeah.
because that's just what I was told I needed to hire. I didn't really push back or felt that I could push back and say, well, no, for this job, they could have no degree and we'll train them or whatever. And so I think that there's definitely an elitist mentality too, in terms of, to be a trained researcher, you've got to have these credentials. Well, there's a lot of things in research that are not, you don't necessarily have to have a master's degree or college degree or whatever. And we should open that up and say, well, let's train for these things. I mean, some of the best research teams that I've been a part of, we had an artist, like our own dedicated
Mhm.
artist, that took all the
Mhm.
data and made it beautiful and made it understandable. Why isn't that? That's an insights position. So there's a
Yep.
lot that's going on and a lot that needs to be changed. One of the reasons why I'm on the IC is for that same reason, is to just expose people, expose students to just what we do, to, in the hopes that they are Black and they're brown and they'll want to at least intern or something. So there's a lot of reasons why.
Excuse me. Sorry. We're
See,
pollen.
it's the Atlanta allergies.
Yes.
See?
It's the pollen starting. Yep. Sorry. Now, all right. So that is actually a really interesting point. I don't talk about this very often, but here's the secret. I don't have a degree at all.
Mm,
Um, the I screwed up college. I screwed up college really well.
mhm.
So and never went back. And
Ah, okay.
the yeah, it just let life, whatever. But we won't get into Lenny's sob story, but the or just story. But I know exactly what you mean, and I've experienced that. So
Mhm.
myself, that elitism over the years. So now 20 years in, right? I think people assume that I have some type of advanced degree, and no, I have a college diploma, or I have a high school diploma, folks.
Mhm.
So the I learned by doing. So I
Mhm.
learned by trying, right? And through that process. So, and I think you're right. We don't create a good path
Mhm.
for really talented people that bring lots of diverse skill sets to the table to uh, to be able to grow, right? To
Mhm.
come into the industry and grow. Like you, my first research job, I was I worked for a company called the Myers Group here in Atlanta,
Mhm.
doing healthcare satisfaction surveys.
Oh
And
my
my
goodness.
experience, yes, that was at the CAPS survey. But that was I was running the call center because I had been running a different type of call center prior to that. And I thought, oh, I can do this, and realized
Mhm.
it was a radically different thing. Point is, I lucked into this
Mhm.
and learned through the process, and now years later, whatever, here I am.
Here you
Um,
are.
Here I am, for whatever that's worth. But the but kind of that do you think that there's a possibility of building almost a moving away from the formal educational uh, system that we have been so enmeshed in into more of a pragmatic internship? And I'm sorry, I just realized the sun is shining
Mhm.
right in my window right here. Um, Almost an internship type program. And would that help? Would that help us to attract really truly talented people that for whatever reason didn't know that we as an industry existed, and haven't gone down that path so far from an education or career standpoint? What do you think? I'm just throwing it out there.
It would help. I mean, I definitely think that it would help because, like you, I think at least half of the world learns by doing. We're demonstrative. Like you can talk and tell me, explain, or show me pictures or whatever, but until I actually do it myself, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And so
Right.
I think that it would help, but I'm also reminded of the fact that, and Whitney Dunlap Fowler, who's the president of the Insights in Color Association that I'm a board member of, she likes to remind us that in some ways, market research is kind of boring. Like it's not,
Right. Right.
we're the creators behind the, like
Right.
we do the analysis, we do the preparation, we do the screeners, we do all this stuff, and that's not attractive. It's not showy for a lot of people, showy enough for a lot of people. And so they may come in, they may leave just because it's like, I want a job where I'm doing, something a little bit more enticing, especially in this age of social media and influencers and all this. So it may not be enough to get people to stay in the industry for their entire career, which is fine. But I think that, at least if we start with the basic goal of saying, hey, let's introduce this industry to as many different kinds of college students, high school students, maybe even middle school students as possible, then I think that in 5, 10 years, we'll definitely start to see an influx of people that look more like the population that all these products that we're testing,
Right.
actually
Right.
serve. I mean, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
start.
That is start, and that's interesting. We should have a follow-up conversation about that as well. I mean, it's interesting. My goal has always been to be as helpful as I can be in as many ways as I can be, and that's GreenBook's
Mhm.
perspective. But we also recognize that when it comes to, excuse me, pollen, when it comes to um, building programs like that, that is the role of trade associations like
Mhm.
the one you mentioned, or the Inside Association, or SMR, or
Mhm.
whoever. The but but I certainly think that we can help drive awareness. So happy to have that conversation to see if there's a way to do that, because I think that's important. Because when I think about this, though, the industry that we've been in, I think it is exciting,
Mhm.
right? I mean, I've had the privilege of participating in one of the largest projects I ever did early on when I started Rockhopper. Was we were doing the original research with
Mhm.
Alcatel-Lucent on the development of 3G technology, right?
Okay. Okay.
Globally. And it's like, man, we helped change the world.
Yeah.
We really did. Now, obviously, Alcatel-Lucent changed the world, but the but the
Mhm.
research that we were doing was important. It was impactful. It was interesting, um, and maybe that message isn't getting gotten out there enough to folks
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
we really do interesting things.
Mhm.
So anyway, or I'm just a geek, and
Mm.
I
No, I mean,
what
no, I'm right there with you. I mean, I think that what you described is exactly one of the first things that, the IIC plans to do in terms of education, is just kind of showcasing some of the failures. Like this is what happens when you don't do market research, and look at how
right, right,
horrible this is,
right. New
and you
Coke.
gotta right, all those new Coke, and yeah, like, start there to say that, a lack of not including market researchers could lead you to this. and entice people in with that, and then get them to see, okay, well, now look, like, you do market research and look at some of the benefits, look at some of the products, some of the, marketing campaigns that have really flourished because they did market research the right way,
Sure.
so yeah, yeah, no.
Well, and even when I think about that's the other career path that seems to be so desirable or the idea of success for so many people of color, of celebrities,
Mhm,
rappers, entertainers, all that great stuff. But they are what's always impressed me about this. They're really great marketers.
mhm,
They inherently are fantastic marketers, and maybe there's a way to capture that idea of look, these folks that have even that kind of maybe in the rap community, you see these
mhm,
people that just market the hell out of themselves. They understand their population. They target them effectively. They build visibility and awareness in their brand. And you know, maybe there's a way to even tap into that message of look,
mhm,
maybe the end result is that yeah, they're up on stage making $1 bajillion, but the process to get there is what we do,
mhm. Right,
right?
exactly. Right,
Yeah,
right. What they see and what they are, being impacted by with this particular celebrity, there was a method to it, right?
yeah,
There was a pathway that was followed in terms of how that person is where they are to a certain degree. And if we can leverage that, maybe we should have like a, I don't know, market research, celebrity
maybe.
collaboration, something. Though I can't think of any celebrities that I would be like excited about, but I'm old,
Yeah,
so
I hear you. I hear you. But but there's a few. But I think I've just noticed that maybe it's my lens that's like, this guy's, they really know what the hell they're doing, right?
Mhm,
They're working the marketing process. So
mhm, mhm.
um,
Yeah.
anyway, that is uh, that's incredibly useful and interesting. I'd like for us to have a conversation to follow up on that.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
something we
absolutely. I think that through having these conversations with people like you, folks who are, maybe even in schools and have access to some of the population groups that we really want to at least bring into market research, having a collaborative effort, I think, is where we start to really, get some of these goals accomplished, because the world is changing, and if we want to
Mhm.
make sure that people that look like us, people that come from where we come from, people who have our experience and our education and all that, have a shot at the future, we've got to start now. I see all these
Yeah.
articles now about how all of our jobs are going to be just completely done away with. The machines are going to do it
Mhm.
all, even research. And it's like, but you still need a human brain to interpret some of this,
Right. Right.
so
Right. Right.
yeah.
And we need a background, right? And totally.
Mhm.
I'm never dismissive of all of my peers and colleagues who have the formal training. There's times I even wish that I had the formal training, but
Yeah.
whatever, our paths are different. So, but I think that to your point, achieving that type of representativity of experience, right,
Mhm.
and finding all of the opportunities that we have across the board for really talented people to do great things,
Mhm.
um, regardless of this kind of structured way. And maybe that's just part of being researchers. We think of things in very
True.
structured ways. Um, maybe we all need to become qualies. Maybe that's the way that right.
I don't know. My brain doesn't really. I don't know. I respect qualitative research, but it's not my natural way of thinking and
Got it.
doing things. I need
Yeah.
categories, and so I would just think, for me, all of the buckets that we fall into are valuable.
Yeah.
We need a mix of all of us. We can't all be PhD statisticians.
Yes.
Some
Yeah.
of us need to be okay with just, I don't know, coding the data. I don't know. It's just all of us have value and we all should come together because that's the way that we get a holistic, team and, set the stage for inclusion in other levels as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, agreed. So I don't want to be conscious of time. That like the
Mhm.
last time we chatted, I think you and I can just go on and on
I
for
know,
a long time.
right?
The Let's zero back in on kind of the first part of the conversation though of okay, so you started the business uh, in the middle of the apocalypse, right, or the beginning of the
The
apocalypse.
beginning of the apocalypse.
Um, what have you learned? What have you learned as an entrepreneur, as a woman,
Mhm.
Anything that has kind of wrapped that up this past year, you look back and say, hey, this was interesting that I've learned
Mhm.
these lessons and that you could share with our listeners.
Oh my goodness. I think that for me, the biggest thing that I learned is that those courses that I kind of had a little bit of an interest in, whether it was in college or even in my corporate job that I thought about taking but didn't feel like I had enough time or whatever, I should have just taken the damn course. Like I always had a little bit of like, okay, well, I want to take that graphic design class, never did it. Oh, I see that there's this business class, to understand statements, financial statements. Oh, I don't have time to do it. I should have done it, things like that. Do those things when you really do have the time, and then it'll make your older years just, a little bit easier because it just would have, I think, just broadened my base of knowledge for starting my own business and having to do all of that stuff myself.
Right, right, and all the mistakes that come along with it when
Yes.
yes, got it, yes.
Well, a lot of people expect that you know this stuff. They're like, oh, well, you don't. I mean, I'm going to send you the statement. We need you to, where's your P&L?
So sorry.
Where's this? No, you're fine. Where's this? Where's that? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't even understand what that means.
I know.
Yeah. So I've
I
learned
know.
that I should have just gone with some of my interests instead of being so focused on whatever it was that I was just, honed in on. Just do the fun stuff too, just because, you never know.
Okay, that is a good message. So the always be learning,
Always be
always be learning.
learning.
All right, so if you think about, we've made it through, hopefully, fingers crossed, you're right, the worst of this, you know, weirdness
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
we've all experienced. Now, where do you see yourself being 2 years out, 3 years out? What's that vision look like for you? I
My
know, fingers crossed
vision.
again, right?
My vision is to have a market research practice that includes even more technology than what we're using now, where we've got all these relationships with all these different companies that automate things, that we're doing more automated things. We're getting
Yeah, yeah.
away from some of the more manual things, um, that I never again in my life have to do another 20-minute survey. Please, Lord, no more long surveys. Things like that, where it's like we're just making it as easy as possible for consumers and the people that we need to get feedback from to give us their feedback easily. We're tapping into more blockchain solutions, so we never have to ask any demographic questions, things like that, where it's just like
Oh, you're singing my tune, Ambika.
we're just able to, we have this information, people can update it whenever they want to update it, and we're just getting to the meat of what we need to ask so that we can get to the solution and get to the insight.
Right. Now, wait,
Please.
now, I don't remember, did you and I talk about Variglyph, or are you actually arriving at that same place organically?
I don't think that we talked about.
See,
Oh
that's
my
why then, all right, we have another conversation to have then, because yeah, I've been building a whole startup
goodness.
that are
Oh my
working on
goodness.
trying to do that. So anyway, that's a whole other
Oh my
thing.
goodness. Okay,
Hey,
yes, we have to, yeah, we have to chat because
but thank
yeah.
you for the validation. Yes, so, but yeah, totally agree with that. And so then I assume that the next step of that is so that the value really is based upon leveraging your IP and your team's IP and
Mhm.
experience in helping to activate the
Yeah,
insights, right? To focus on this is what we do around these business issues
exactly.
rather than the process of research itself. Is that,
Exactly. Yeah, because the
yeah,
process is eating up all so much time and effort, and it's like, wait a minute, this is the moment, I mean, I guess that's part of why we're researchers because we get excited about that. And the data's all back, and now we get to make sense of it. Yeah, but it took us 3 months to get here. That's unacceptable.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. All right, so it is early on a Friday morning for both of us, and I want to be conscious of the time. And again, I think you and I
Hmm.
could go on a lot more. And I think that yeah, I'd love for us to have another conversation,
Yes, we should.
not on camera, about some of the stuff you talked about, because I think that it's cool. But I also would like to let's follow back up and talk about this idea around building a more inclusive uh, industry and how we can help do that in
Hmm.
different ways, right? So let's have that follow conversation as well. And yeah, that's great. So I loved our first conversation. I've loved this conversation even more. And I hope that we have more and more of these, Ambika. This is great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lenny.
No, thank you. So have a great rest of the weekend. It looks like it's going to be beautiful here in Atlanta. So Ambika's in Atlanta as well, for those who that don't know. So sorry, rest of the country that's still cold. I'm in shorts today.
Yeah, it's
So
gonna
and
be 80
actually,
degrees. And so sorry
yeah,
guys, but
yeah, but we're gonna have pollen. But we're gonna have pollen. Everything's gonna be green, covered in green here in the next couple of days. So so we'll be snotty, drooly messes for anyway. All right, Ambika, it was a joy. Thank you so much. Congratulations on the success so far, and I'm
thank you
sure
so
that there will
much.
be a heck of a lot more to come.
I hope so. Thank you.
All right, thank you.